As a preliminary matter, this is Woody Knight, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on this agenda can hear me and that they are present. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos.
Yes, sir.
Larry Murphy.
Here.
Scott Kenter.
Yes.
And Steve Mangian.
Yes.
And town staff, Kristen Grubbs, Planning Director.
Yes.
And Sadie Woodward, Assistant
Yes.
Planner.
Here.
Very good. We're all here tonight. Good evening. June 15th, 2026, open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely consistent with the Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order, suspend 20 until June 30th, 2027. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found at the town's website. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering meeting ID number 832-714-1356. And the passcode is 108790. Or by calling in via telephone 1929-205-6099 US and entering the meeting ID number and passcode when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and on telephone conference. This meeting is also being broadcast live through local access cable channel 9 and on Zoom and at newburytv.wixsite.com/TNCTV. And the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting business ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I'll go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. For all attendees, please remember to mute your audio when you're not speaking. On Zoom, use the mute button. On your telephone, use *6 to toggle to mute and to unmute. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the public hearing. I'll seek questions and comments from the members of the public through the Zoom raise hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the image of the hand that appears. Please ensure that your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. For our telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your telephone keypad. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address, and then may ask their question or make a comment. Please do your best to keep your comments or questions to 3 minutes or less. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions or comments. I will afford the applicant or their representative the opportunity to reply. Should there be a written submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. The applicant will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right. First item on the agenda this evening is meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review meeting minutes for June 17th, 2026?
Yep.
Seeing nods. Are there any edits or corrections to the meeting minutes for June 17th?
I just have one small typo. I made the motion to adjourn, and in the motion, my last name is misspelled. A couple of the letters were transposed, so if we could fix that, I'm otherwise fine with it.
Very good. Nice catch, Larry. So with that said, does anyone else have any corrections? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the June 17th, 2026 meeting minutes as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote. Peter,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So that takes care of our meeting then. Next item on the agenda is liaison meeting reports. We'll start with ZBA. That would be Larry.
They're having their regular monthly meeting tomorrow night. Two items on the agenda: continued public hearing on a special permit for 129 Northern Boulevard, and also to finalize a decision on 15 Sunset Drive special permit. And that's all I have, Woody.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Conservation Commission, that would be myself. I believe we met last Tuesday, and there were a number of items on the agenda. The only thing I recall that pertained to us was a letter from the Conservation Commission to the Planning Board that laid out the results and actions taken for 34 Central Street. So we all received that letter, and it was noted for the record. MVPC, Kristen, do you have anything from them?
No, both the planners monthly meeting and the commissioners meetings are on a summer break.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, then moving on. Next item on the agenda is old business. We have K&R Construction Site Plan. This is a request for release of escrow funds for site plan review project at 84 Boston Road. Assessors map R36, lot 23A. The applicant, Kevin Whitney, K&R Construction Company, LLC. Kristen, would you like to update us on that?
Sure. So the board reviewed the as-built plan and closed this site plan project out at a previous meeting. So this is just the last administrative cleanup. We have had money in the town's escrow fund to pay for peer review, for the engineering review, including review of the as-built plan. So we've paid the last bill to the town's peer review, and now the applicant receives the remaining funds back. So this is a vote to return the remaining dollars in the escrow fund to the applicant. And I believe there's $166.27, and the vote will read plus any interest that's accrued at the time the money is being returned, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
Yep.
Any questions or comments on this from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to release all remaining funds, including interest, from the peer review engineering escrow account for the K&R Construction Site Plan project, to return the funds to Kevin Whitney, K&R Construction LLC, and to close out the account.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Larry. Do I have a second?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pete. Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So that takes care of the old business, K&R closeout of escrow funds. Next thing on the agenda is August meeting dates. We're meeting next week due to circumstances with 34 Central Street. Hold that tonight due to conflicts in schedules with the lawyer, with our attorney. So we're meeting with them on, that is the 29th, correct, Kristen?
Right. So two weeks from tonight.
Yep. And then our next regularly scheduled meeting for the planning board would be August, the first Wednesday in August. So that would put us, have us lined up for 3 meetings in a row. So, Kristen, if you want to take over, you sent out an email to the board, so if you'd like to cover what the dates are, I don't have the dates in front of me. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we just want to talk this through in the case we need to continue the public hearing with a couple of the other projects. So, yeah, as Woody said, the board's meeting 2 weeks from tonight, the last Wednesday in July. July has 5 Wednesdays this month. So we missed our first meeting, but we're catching up and having 2 meetings in July. So I guess I just want to check with the board. As Woody said, it seems it probably doesn't make sense to have back-to-back meetings on July 29th and August 5th. So I wanted to check if the board wanted to change the regular first Wednesday meeting, which would have been August 5th, to either the 12th or the 19th for the August meeting.
Is everyone available on either one of those dates?
Available for either the 12th or the 19th.
Pete?
Yep. What does the load look like?
34 Central and a continuance of 15 Central, and then anything else that Kristen may have that penciled in for.
I don't, there aren't any other projects that I know of that are coming in the near term. There are a few things that are out there in terms of not a public hearing, but some other project stuff that I don't know when they'll come in yet.
Okay. So,
Was the thought that
Kristen,
Go ahead.
does Sunset need to come in for final okay?
They do need to close out. My understanding is the engineer's working on the as-built plan, so
Okay.
waiting to hear when that's ready to submit. The board needs to receive that and then have it in hand and reviewed by peer review before they're on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yep. So that could be coming in. That's one of the ones.
so is the thought at this point to have one meeting in August?
it is, if that's okay with everyone on the board. It is summer.
It probably would make sense, Woody, because if we have 34 next week, and if there's anything to do, nothing's going to happen by the 5th. So landing on the 19th probably makes sense time-wise. And it gets 15 enough time to button up whatever they need to button up.
So it sounds to me like we'll have August meeting on the 19th. Do we have to vote on that, Kristen, or is that just all right, the way it is?
I don't think you need to vote on that. We'll certainly, make sure it's updated on the town website and on the calendar and every other place people generally look.
The 19th would have been a normal
Right.
meeting date. So we're just skipping the 5th.
Yep, due to next week's meeting, so. All right, sounds good. We'll meet
Yeah.
next week, next Wednesday, and then we'll meet on the 19th of August. Very good.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right, now I have 7:16, so we'll start our public hearing this evening. This is a public hearing, definitive subdivision application, 15 Central Street. Assessors map U11, lot 53, for a 2-lot subdivision. Applicant owner, Michael Becker, 15 Central, Byfield, LLC. Now, I'd like to welcome Mike and Carissa. And are they here? I see Carissa. All right, would you like to?
Hello.
Oh, there's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Good evening.
Would one of you like to update us? Give us some updates on the project?
We attended a meeting last week at the Byfield Water District Authority, and they didn't have any significant changes for us. couple of notes they wanted to add to the file, that the saddle straps be stainless steel, and that the water main taps be 2 foot of separation each. We noted those on the plan. The peer reviewer asked that we give a spec on the retaining wall, and we're intending to reuse the rock wall that's closest to the street as reuse that same rocks as a rock wall for the retaining wall. So no specs on that as far as like brand, or they're irregular. And I think that's about it for outstanding items.
Thank you, Mike. Kristen? Do you have any updates that you'd like to speak to on this project?
Yeah, I think Sadie and I'll both chime in a little bit just to update. We've had some conversations since the last planning board meeting regarding just reviewing all of the subdivision regulations with peer review and ourselves. And we've had some conversations with Mike and Charissa and your consultants about just going through the waivers. And one of the waivers that's being requested is for no sidewalks. So we just wanted to make sure that the decision that the board is considering includes sort of consideration of the regulation in the bylaw that talks about pedestrian and bike safety, as well as traffic safety. So I guess in general, this sort of category of considerations are either sidewalks on the new subdivision road or any offsite improvements to assure that the regulations are being met related to safety. So as the board knows, we've been talking about this for a while. We had MVPC transportation team look at things, the applicant's been in front of the select board. So everybody's been working together, which is great. I think the last thing we wanted to talk about tonight and have had conversations with the applicant, and you submitted a letter related to this, Mike. I don't know if you want to explain your letter to the meeting, but
relative to the tree.
Yeah, the sidewalk and the tree. So the discussion is whether there needs to be a sidewalk across the frontage of Central Street, which would be a component of making the alignment of Central Street with Church Street consistently, fixing the alignment, showing the engineering for the alignment, and considering pedestrian and bike safety in addition to improving the safety of the vehicles at that location.
So the letter that you're referring to is from our surveyor and I think perhaps the engineer, but the net is the base of the tree, which is a street tree, the one closest to our driveway and closest to the street is ballpark, not a surveyor, but my recollection is about 2 feet and change above the street grade and approximately 7 feet away. Does that sound right, Kristen?
I think it's approximate, but I haven't done the measurements of that.
So in order to put a sidewalk on top of that, sidewalk would probably be about, 30 inches up from the street. Not really feasible without killing the tree. I definitely do not want to lose that tree. I'm trying to get any screening I can between the house and the street and the gas station, and that house is between that tree is between the house and kind of all those things. So I really don't want to lose that tree.
I wondered if sorry, Woody, just to, I know Sadie wrote up some materials about the sort of recommendations that staff with MVPC are making. And I wanted to just, if it makes sense now, give her an opportunity to talk about those recommendations in more detail than what I just mentioned.
Yep, and that's fine. Did you have an aerial view of this that you could put up, Kristen? And go ahead,
Yes,
Sadie.
I will work on that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we've communicated this with you, Mike and Carissa, over email. And I believe the board has been sent this over email as well, but I'll just go through it quickly. We all know, MVPC's concept one is the preferred concept. That's the one that planning staff recommends, just teeing off the intersection. In talks with like within staff and DPW and MVPC, the sidewalk along the frontage of Central Street is also recommended as kind of a twofold traffic calming treatment and also improving pedestrian and bike mobility for the new occupants of the duplex and the older house and also other abutters and neighbors. It would, narrow the street so that people would slow down, and it would also, cause drivers to be more attentive when driving through or turning onto Church Street. And in addition, increasing pedestrian mobility would be a crosswalk across Central Street from the new sidewalk to the sidewalk that exists on the other side, and possibly signage or a flashing beacon would be a traffic calming treatment and increase safety for pedestrians. That there are pedestrians in this area, but it's not currently a safe area for them, and it would be, it would improve the area to have these things and also, address the safety concerns that abutters and planning board and staff have. So those are the planning department, planning staff recommendations for this intersection.
Were you able to find that, Kristen?
Yeah. Can you see that? Is it big enough? Are you seeing the shared screen?
Yes, it looks good.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
So this is our rough sketch, which is why we need to, if this is going to be considered, we need to have this engineered, which is why we had engineers look at it. But this sidewalk exists right now in front of the gas station from the 95 interchange. It comes in front of here, and they have sort of, the in and out of the gas station, and then it this is. I can zoom in a little bit. You can see here's the property line here in blue, and then the idea would be to continue the sidewalk. This is the tree, the aerial of the tree that we're all talking about. There are some dead trees in here, which, we've talked about on the site visit as not the trees we're talking about. And we're talking about this one right here. And then,
sorry, Kristen,
Yep.
the sidewalk that's in front of the gas station, you wouldn't need a sidewalk there because that is the intersection of the gas station egress and out onto Central, right? Is it just striping or?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's really,
And that would be something not, that we would work on with the town and the gas station.
So
So the property line is here.
and there's the sidewalk ends at the curb of the parking lot for the gas station.
Theoretically, it ends
Well,
kind of close to that tree.
Yeah,
As it's paved, it's the same continuous pavement, but then it slopes uphill dramatically and quickly. There's actually some shrubs in that spot now, which we're all right with removing the shrubs, but we don't want to lose that tree, which you can't really see well in this picture. I took some street shots of it if want me to share screen.
which is
Go ahead, Pete. I was just gonna say, we'll go through, and Scott, thank you for your questions. We'll go through the board here. Pete, we'll start with
Thank-
you. again.
thank you, Woody. Uh, you know, I think I like this idea, and I'll tell you why. I like the idea of the crosswalk, and I like the idea of the two sidewalks connecting the crosswalk. And this does a couple things. One, it does tee up that intersection that we spoke about, but it also will produce some traffic calming, which I am a huge favor of because no one hits this doing 25. People are still in a highway mode and they come tearing down the hill. They go past the old church. And maybe when they get to the bottom of that hill where the stop sign is, they're starting to put on their brakes. But it's an area where people fly down. So I think having the sidewalk really does increase the safety capacity of this. And not that I would ask the applicant to put a flashing light or a crossing light here. I think that would also be a nice additive to this area for the same reason, because I think when people see those sort of things, they put on their radar screen, they should be slowing down. So anything that we can do for calming the traffic, making it safe for people to access and cross and walk. I think I'm comfortable with this. And was there an easement on the first part of this parcel? Do I remember that right?
Yeah. I
Yes.
was speak of that as well.
And where's that easement?
That asphalt area between yeah, right there. That's an easement for the benefit of the gas station.
Okay, and is that paved right now?
Yes.
Okay, so this part of that is already paved. The piece in front of the gas station is paved, so that's just striping. There's no need for cost there. So we're talking about from where the pavement ends, distal or towards the intersection for constructing a new area of walking. And how does this tree factor into this thing, Kristen? Is the tree at risk or is there enough room there?
Kristen, do you mind if I share screen?
Yeah,
Yes, please do.
let's see. Okay, see if you can.
The area view is nice and
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
pictures from Mike.
I know we have a letter from Joe talking about this. I don't know if Kristen, you want me to read that or in.
Sure. Yeah, while we're waiting for Mike to show the other photos. Is it working, Mike? The share?
Image from file. Yeah, having a little bit of a hard time with it. It'll only let me get into my work photos from this profile, so I'm trying to work around on that.
All right.
Okay. Well, Sadie, why don't you talk? And meanwhile, I'm gonna try to find Joe's photo and share
Okay.
that.
Sounds good. So Joe's letter, he said he received sheet 5, the 7/8 revision, and a water plan also dated July 8th. His first comment says, relative to the offsite improvements to the Central Street and Church Street intersection, the plan offers little information. The engineer should provide a separate offsite improvements plan sheet depicting adequate information for the realignment of the intersection, including curbing, sidewalk, crosswalk, signage, saw cut lines, etc. The engineer should also look at a proposed vertical granite curb approximately 2 feet off the fog line in Central Street with a 5-foot sidewalk and adequate handicap ramps. The sidewalk location should allow for the existing adjacent tree to remain. And then he has comments regarding the water plan as well.
So do I hear the interpretation that there's enough room for the sidewalk to go in there and the tree to remain?
I believe that is what Joe is saying.
Okay.
Did Joe have a photo? And I'm sorry, I can wait, to be called on Woody.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I thought Joe had a level out there and, as part of his, he took a photo,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty meaningful. I mean, it kind of tells you tells you what will work.
So
Yeah.
Mike, I might kick you off and just show that other photo if that's
Yep,
okay.
that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Thanks
Yes,
for your
thank you, Dave.
picture.
Right.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
So what this is showing is what Sadie just read, which is normally there's a 2 foot distance from the fog line, this white line, and then a sidewalk could start with a 5 to 6 inch raised granite edge, which is consistent with the newish sidewalk on the other side of Central Street that the town put in just last year or last spring, I think. And this is showing the 5 foot width of what a regular spec for a sidewalk width would be. And Joe's assessment of this is that you wouldn't have to cut into the grade and you could save the tree. There's enough room.
So essentially, this is narrowing of the street in order to get the sidewalk in?
Narrowing of this shoulder to have a safe sidewalk rather than this larger shoulder.
I don't mind that. I was under the impression that the narrowing of the shoulder of the street was not an option.
Well,
I don't know I don't believe I said that to you. I'm not sure if that was said by anyone else.
um,
Well, it could have been an assumption, but so this looks like a pretty good alternative, Mike.
I like it. I mean, it essentially pushes traffic even further from the house, which anytime that can happen is good for us. It gives a sidewalk that is continuous. It will be cohesive with the curbing that goes all the way to the intersection. I mean, I feel like the narrowing of the street there will also slow traffic as well. So everything that was said before, yep, I agree with that.
Okay, and just a question on across the street was did we have to get state approvals for that sidewalk and the curb, and is it a state spec, or I'm just not sure. Wasn't part of that. Do you know, Kristen?
It's town road at this location. We have had this conversation with the DPW director. We do want to go back once we have this in a sort of more designed drawing. So I think that's part of what we'd love to get from your team, Mike and Carissa, which is like just that sheet 5 is very, very busy, and the intersection realignment is needs more detail and more space. And we're just wondering if you could do a separate sheet with these offsite improvements. I mean, some of them are abutting your property, but essentially we're talking about the realignment of the street and the crosswalk and the sidewalk.
I saw a couple of different options on that, one of which had a sidewalk that went to the right side of the triangle where we were talking about putting a rock, and another one had the sidewalk kind of go right up to the crosswalk. Like there was I think a bike lane maybe that cut through and not so much of a sidewalk. Have we settled on like a final design for that?
I think Sadie and I were putting some sort of ideas out there, but since we're not engineers, we were, I guess, leaving it open to the engineers to make a proposal. But, we're happy to sort of arrange another meeting with the DPW director to talk about what might work. Maybe our peer review engineer could be involved in that. Sadie, I don't know, you've done some training on these topics. Do you want to add anything?
I think those were for before we had thought that the sidewalk would be possible. Is that right, Kristen? And we were kind of just talking about designs for if we were just trying to tee off the intersection without any sidewalk or any curbing. I definitely think that like those designs that you had proposed could be integrated into a design with that includes a sidewalk and a crosswalk. But yeah, I think it's ultimately up to you guys and the engineers to complete the design.
Okay, while we're here, could we get some feedback from the board on the proposed boulder garden? Like we had proposed a boulder in the triangle there with a garden around it, which kind of matches what's on the other side of Church, the fork of Church Street and Central. And that's the small detail in the upper right-hand corner of Paul's plan.
I will try to bring that up on the screen. That's helpful.
I like that design, and then it's kind of cohesive, like, you know, you're entering into Church Street and it's sort of like framed on both sides. Plus boulders are really durable.
Yes, they are.
They are.
I got a big roller at my house, Mike, that you can have, if you can get it, on a trailer.
I think we have no shortage of them on this property. We did the
Correct.
test pits. It was bony.
There's enough boulders in Byfield to save Blue Island. I think it's a great idea to incorporate a short little section of sidewalk to a crosswalk, incorporated into the configuration. So it would be great to see some sort of a layout of that drawn up to the specifications that that Kristen and Sadie need. This is showing it here. And I also want to give Larry and Steve an opportunity to make comments before I turn to public comment. Larry, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
No, actually, I think these are all good suggestions. Anything we can do to calm traffic there is a good thing. I did see one suggestion about rapid flashing beacons. Has anybody talked to DPW about that? Because going forward, they would have the responsibility to maintain that, I would think.
I have not specifically either. I don't think anyone's against the idea of them, but I haven't brought it up as a specific, we are asking police and DPW would be the two entities who have been involved in those flashing beacons and other locations in town. So I can go back to those directors and have that conversation if we think that's an important component of the improvements here. I know
if I could voice
Patty,
my opinion on that.
Steve.
Yeah, I know Patty does have some systems that she moves around town, but if we're talking about a permanent installation, that's another discussion. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't object to something that's like around the gas station or past that, but I'm not crazy about the thought of a blinking light. The house is already like in the front setback, so you're talking about 20 feet away, 24/7, kind of blinking. I got this visual of like Kramer with the Kenny Rogers across from this place at Seinfeld. I got no sleep.
Okay.
Can
The point is well taken.
I mention something about that real quick?
Yes, hold on one sec. I agree with you there, Mike. I know they have them on High Street, Newburyport, which is a much busier road during different periods of the day. And the ones I've seen on High Street, Newburyport, the type of setup where you push the button and that's when it flashes. So it would only be when the pedestrian was crossing the street. And I'll let Sadie talk.
That's what I was going to say is I know that there are some that are constant, but there are some that it's just when you push the button and it's for a few seconds as they're crossing. So I think if we do go that route, I think that would be a good, specification to have, because I agree.
I know they're effective because they do catch my attention. And was that you, Larry, that wanted to say something?
No, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the expense of that. So as of right now, there's nothing there, right?
Nothing.
Um. You know, I believe that would be, very expensive.
Yeah.
So,
If
I'm not set on a flashing light there, but some more information would probably be helpful. And Pete, did you want to say something?
poor Steve has been waiting,
Steve,
And I'm still
Go right
prepared to
ahead.
wait.
go right ahead, Steve. You were next.
Yeah. Well, regarding the flashing lights, which is the latest thing to be talking about, I think that in a dense residential neighborhood like you see on Water Street in Newburyport, that could be problematic. But I think the amount of traffic, pedestrian traffic you'd see in this area would mean a minimal pressing of the button and flashing lights. But I certainly would like to hear what Mike has to say down the road on this. But Mike also triggered me when he mentioned bicyclists. And as I understand it, bicyclists can bicycle on the sidewalk as well. If they weren't allowed to do that for whatever reason, it seems to me that the narrowing of the street without a shoulder would mean more risk for bicyclists. And I don't expect every bicyclist to go up on the sidewalk to avoid the traffic, but it just seems to me that bicycling along a now more constricted roadway could be an issue in terms of safety. But I'm also interested in hearing what Mike has to say to make the subdivision work. But that's what's going on in my mind about a sidewalk and how it would affect the flow of bicyclists, which I think may end up being more numerous than pedestrians.
I would have to defer to the people in town on that. I'm not really sure relative to the bicyclists versus the pedestrians. I do like the thought of a new sidewalk, new curb, and the traffic calming measure of narrowing the street there in order to get the sidewalk in, and we still are able to keep the tree and potentially a boulder, a garden, and better visual, I would think. The narrower you make the street, the wider the sidewalk is, the more space you have between the driving line and the Church Street right turn there.
Yeah.
People are driving over the white line as it is right now to make that turn. So, they're in the shoulder when they make the right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I found myself thinking about in the era of distracted driving after you come off of 95 and hit that yield sign, and you got to check your email or whatever it is. Instead of driving over a white line as a shoulder, you might be hitting a curb. And I've seen people hit curbs, and that's, shall we say, fairly disruptive. So it's not obvious to me that a curb is better than a white line. But let me also emphasize, I agree that saving the tree is an important outcome, perhaps the most important outcome. But curbing gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit with all that traffic.
Cape Cod berm would be acceptable to us as well. That's actually what's there now. It's asphalt curb.
Mm-hmm.
so
That actually
Yeah,
runs along the easement. I have some pictures of that too, but it runs along the edge of the easement. There's that sort of berm where the shrubs are and the additional trees are, and that curb is actually buried out onto the sidewalk with like years of sand and road buildup.
Mm-hmm.
May I speak? May I make a comment?
Go ahead, Sadie, and then I think Pete wanted to say something as well. Go ahead.
I believe that in order to have a sidewalk that close to the fog line, the curbing, there are federal highway standards that require, or some set of standards that require the curb to be a certain height. I think the DPW has that information. I don't have that information off the top of my head, but I would be interested to know if there's different options for curbing. But I do think that if the sidewalk is right up next to traffic, you have to have the curb a certain height.
Is there a requirement that it be made out of granite? Because, certainly granite is much more brutal on tires than, asphalt curbing, which is rounded and a little more forgiving.
I can also find that out, but I'm not sure. But it's a good question.
Mhm.
Well,
And
if I understand correctly, the whole point of the curbing is to raise the grade so that we don't have to reduce the grade and cut into the root system of the tree. So I mean, that's the purpose again, is so that you don't have to reduce that grade next to the tree and impinge on the roots. At least that's my understanding anyway.
I think
and that makes
that's
sense.
part of it, and I do think it's again, we will investigate with DPW who have the answers, but I think it's consistent with what we saw just go in across the street on the other side of Central Street. Is granite curbing. There is still a shoulder. It's a choice for a biker, whether you're a dad with your 5-year-old who's just learned, you're probably going to be on the sidewalk. If you're a biker who's driving to, riding to Plum Island from Byfield, you're probably going to be in the road. But I think the safety improvements in general for slowing traffic enhance the bicyclist experience in either case. So I don't think, I think particularly in Newbury, where there aren't a lot of sidewalks, bicyclists are very used to sharing the road with cars. And the most dangerous thing is when cars drive too fast. So, I think we're kind of triaging into, in my opinion, and, our consultation with other transportation planners, improvements that try to do the best at addressing all of these users, all cars, bikes, walkers. And then in particular about this crosswalk, I want to mention that part of the idea is the subdivision is going in on Church Street, and we're thinking about the users for the new subdivision. What would they likely be walking to do? We've heard from some of your neighbors and, the other abutters that there's not a feeling like a sidewalk is needed on Church Street. But I think crossing Central to get over to the library, to get over to the post office and the convenience store, that's the location we're interested in helping pedestrians in particular.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone. It's been a good discussion so far. And what I'm hearing is that we need something drawn up so that we know what it looks like, and maybe even a couple options, because I don't think it's a terrible idea to have a boulder there either. So it all depends on how much room there is, and I'm just not the engineer, and I don't think anyone else here could draw it up for us. So if I'm hearing everything correctly, Kristen, that you'd like him to draw something up for us to look at, correct?
Sort of more detail in this particular location on ideally a separate sheet so we can take a look. And if they're, we'll work with you guys obviously on this, because we're going to need to consult with DPW. So if we can do that work, before the next meeting and get that in shape, happy to work on that.
We can do that. Just so I have my marching orders correct, does since we don't know if the the right side of Church Street aligns with the crosswalk on the left side, is there any kind of spec that says that the crosswalk has to be perpendicular or maximum angle differentiation from being a right angle?
I don't have that
So
answer, but
the crosswalk's going to start at the ADA ramp across the street, but if that doesn't align with the 15 Central side of Church Street, do we just angle it to get it to a point where it meets? And should the ADA ramp onto the new sidewalk face towards the crosswalk only, or should that be at like a 45-degree angle out towards the new entrance of Church Street? What is some guidance on that spec would be helpful so that there's not multiple iterations back and forth.
Understandable.
I don't
Yeah.
have the answer. Are you, I guess I would ask if your engineer could look into it and like clarify what the questions are, then we can help get peer review on it. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also wondering how that fits with the boulder. I like the thought of the boulder there as like protecting the, that angle as you go into there, but we're going to need, I think, 6 feet minimum to the face of anything. And I think the aesthetics of flowers in front of it are nice, but the boulder is kind of the key component there. So we'll just, I guess, see what fits. And there's plenty of room between what would be the 2-foot location, 2 foot off the line to the curb from there to my front lot line. So, and grade is not so much of an issue as you get close to the mouth of Church Street. In fact, there's a 6-inch pothole there now. So, grade's not really a problem there. There's no tree roots. So even if we have to back the boulder up, towards the house a little bit, I understand it defeats the purpose of defending the corner of Church the more you back it up. But in priority order, I would say it's the tree and then the sidewalk and then, the boulder and protecting Church. And if you guys agree with that or have your own list of priorities, I'd like to hear them.
That sounds good to me. A good priority list, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So if I could,
in that same order?
Yeah, and then fitting your crosswalk into it as well. And go ahead,
Yeah,
Pete.
the mouth of, yeah. And I think that's not a problem. I'm just trying to figure out as to how the mouth of the crosswalk aims, and if there's a spec that requires the crosswalk to be straight, you can't have it, diagonally across an intersection. So just trying to get feedback on that. I'm sure you guys have all done more of this type of work than I have, so I will announce my ignorance and, beg for forgiveness on it.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead, Pete.
Appreciate you begging for forgiveness now versus later. Sorry, Pete.
What I gotta say here is I appreciate this collaboration that's going on right now because it's really in the best interest of the community. It's in the best interest of this development, and it's really taking to attention safety. So we're going to create a sidewalk, extend a sidewalk. We're going to have a crosswalk. We're talking about making an intersection safer. We're talking about protecting that intersection, and we're talking about the possibility of maybe some sort of alerting a signal system. Understanding that we're not asking the applicant to do that. That's a wish list, I think, on the part of the town, and that would be the town's responsibility to say, hey, listen, that would be on us, or some grant that we could to do for that, because I'm sure that there's associated expense with those types of signs, and this is something that we're really trying to collaborate with you. So that would be my position on that, Kristen. At least so it's it's kind of a bipartisan approach here. How's that?
Any other questions or comments from the planning board before I ask for public comment? Hearing none. Do we have any raised hands, or now's the time if you're participating from the public? If you have any questions or comments? And I take it we don't see any raised hands, Kristen?
I don't. Nope.
Okay, I don't have the ability to see raised hands. Okay. And has there been any written public comments? Speaking of public comments.
No, there has not.
Okay, very good.
I do want to also say we are very far along on a draft decision for this project. And I wanted to ask the board if you would like to us to get that into a sort of final draft shape and bring that forward while we're still trying to finalize this question about the site plan at this location.
I think that would be very helpful. And what do we have? We'd probably continue this to, the date was the 19th, correct? This public hearing? It was the 19th, Kristen?
Yeah, your next meetings are July 29th and August 19th.
Okay.
I think we'll need more time for to the August date for this design work.
But by August, we'd have a pretty good final draft of the decision. We'd have a good reconfiguration drawings from the applicant, and we'd be in pretty good shape, correct?
Would there be any benefit to coming back at the meeting in 2 weeks and presenting a draft of the intersection plan? As Paul's already been out there, he's plotted some info on the intersection, but he doesn't have a plan ready as of, tonight's meeting, as to what the existing conditions are. But once you get the existing conditions, pretty easy to put forth what we're proposing.
Unfortunately, Mike, we have a meeting next week with 34 Central, and then our next meeting won't be till August 19th.
Oh, that's a special meeting. That's not the next available meeting.
Yeah, no, the next Wednesday's meeting is because our attorneys couldn't be present tonight for 34 Central Street.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I'll send the plan in upon completion, and we'll see you in August.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. If there's no other questions, staff doesn't have any other further comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to continue 15 Central Street public hearing to July 29th, to continue 15 Central Street public hearing to August 19th at 7:15 via Zoom.
So move.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Larry.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Roll call vote. Pete,
Yes, sir.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Steve.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And thank you, Mike, and thank you, Teresa. Been a nice discussion, and we look forward to seeing the configuration drawing with everything we've discussed, and we'll have a good final draft to go through on the 19th.
Thank you.
We should be in
Have a good night.
Good shape after that. So, yep. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. And with that public hearing over with, I don't see anything else on the agenda but a planners report. So I'll turn it over to you, Kristen.
All right, thanks. We have a few updates. I'll let Sadie, do you want to start and then I'll chime in?
Sure. Yeah. So what did I have? So we are full steam ahead with the open space and rec plan update. We've enlisted Kay Emery, who's part of the environmental team at MVPC, to help us put the finishing touches on everything and review everything. So we're going to be working with her through October, and we are using our local technical assistance hours to have her help, which is really a great tool. So that's been going really well with the committee. And then I wanted to let everyone know that Newbury Town Day is on August 15th, which is a Saturday. I think it's 1 to 7. And I think it's at the Central Green Fields. So that will just be, I'm sure there will be food, drink, games, things like that. But the main focus is just to highlight all the different organizations in Newbury that are doing great work. So the Open Space Committee will be there to talk about the plan update. I know the Border to Boston committee is going to be there. Other groups, I think Greenbelt's going to have some materials. So yeah, should be a fun thing to check out if you're around. And then another little thing that I've been working on is we're working to use some recycling dividend program grant funding to hire a very part-time recycling coordinator to help the town become more sustainable with our day-to-day operations, events, getting residents to recycle in their lives, and to just generally help the town become more sustainable, which I think is a great mission. So yeah, that's all of my things I have to report. Oh,
All right, thank you, Sadie. And Kristen, you're good? Sadie's in charge of the planners report this week?
No, I have a few updates, but I know, Steve, you're muted, but you have a question for Sadie. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you for pointing out the mute, Kristen.
I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't see you.
No, I was just waving my hand rather than raising my hand. There was a recent article in the Wall Street Journal talking about how recycling in some ways is a much overblown success story, and that 80% of the stuff which you put out for recycling ends up going straight to a landfill. And of the 20%, a lot of it goes to a place which basically is an incinerator. Though with some artful engineering and wordsmithing, you can say it's really not an incinerator for the other 20%. And the cost of recycling is still going up quite a bit. So to repeat a theme I've raised before, I think the town really needs to take a look at who they allow to go to the transfer station to deposit their waste for recycling, because I'll bet you dollars to donuts that that's going to become an additional cost for using the transfer station, a cost which is increased in part because of non-Newbury residents bringing material to what is arguably the costly option of the recycling bins, particularly for plastic and metal in the town. And I think we need to be wrestling with that and maybe working with the Board of Health on what their plans are for charging for bringing one's trash to the transfer station, and to recognize the reality that it may say recycling, but that doesn't mean that what happens is what we might think is happening.
yes.
Speech.
I have heard that stat before, and I'm always like, oh man, that's tough to hear that, people are recycling. I have read that is that stat refers to the general US, but the Northeast actually is better than the general US about actually recycling the things that are sent to recycling. So I think that it's a worthwhile pursuit to dedicate time and resources to recycling in Newbury and in the Northeast in general. I think there's a state office that tracks trash and recycling in Newbury that has stats on how much waste our town produces. That's part of the goal of this whole waste reduction effort in Newbury is to have a system to track all that. So I can definitely hunt that down and provide it.
If I may interrupt Sadie a little bit, I would say that how much trash is produced in Newbury. Well, I suppose we can look at what Mello picks up on the island for people that pay for Mello to come by and empty their trash bins. but how we know what's happening at the transfer station where anybody can drive in and leave waste there from any place that you live and happen to drive into. I've seen, plenty of New Hampshire plates, for instance. So I'd be intrigued to see how the state generates those numbers with the caveats that I just identified. There can be a tendency for things to sound better than they are. And that's where looking at the data and how the data is gathered becomes an important part of the story. Because again, I suspect the Board of Health is going to be raising its costs sometime soon for when you go to the Newbury transfer station. And what Mello does, I don't know. But there was a wonderful phrase that was around when I was working on hazardous waste in a previous lifetime, and that talked about cradle to grave. And
Yep.
and I would like to see the cradle to grave analysis that's done with data. And again, I'll take off my hat and be quiet.
Well, if I just a quick comment is, I think like all of the comments and questions that you guys are discussing, this is why this is good for Newbury. Like there's a group, it includes the health director, it includes the planning office. We're connected with DEP, we're connected with the other towns in the region, and it's trying to sort of elevate the conversation of waste reduction. And I would put along with that recycling reduction, right? Like just because you recycle something, like don't get it in the first place, right? Use your reusable bottle instead of recycling your plastic bottle. Like all of that is sort of convened by Sadie and our partners and the health agent, and hopefully a part-time person. Keep your eye out for this 10-hour-a-month job if you know of anyone interested in these conversations. We want to have a landing place for Newbury to really like look at the systems we have in our public buildings among our residents and think about ways to, reduce our waste altogether in order to be more sustainable. So all of that is good. Data driven is important.
Well, I've got my hat back on.
I think Steve volunteered.
I was wondering.
I think under the regs or something like that, one cannot be taking on such a position while being an elected member of the planning board. But I would submit that the low-hanging fruit for waste reduction in the town of Newbury is to simply say, if you ain't a resident of Newbury, you can't come to our transfer station. And that would immediately cause a great drop in waste being generated in the town of Newbury as measured by when those containers are emptied by Mello and they get weighed and that sort of thing. So if you want to talk about low-hanging fruit, and maybe that's something you can carry back to this 10-hour per month position, is to say, well, let's look at that, because that's something we can do immediately with a regulation from the Board of Health. Again, I'll take off my hat.
Trash is a complicated topic. I've watched a lot of videos. I've watched the mayor of Newburyport recently take a test, what you recycle, what you throw away. It is what it is. And unfortunately, we didn't put trash on the agenda tonight.
Oh, right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sadie, and everybody. Super excited about just a lot of other projects. I'll go through mine really quick. I think since we haven't met in a few weeks, I think these are new updates. I hope so. The town was awarded a grant from Mass Trails. I don't think I announced that with all of you, but we received a $455,000 grant that we applied for this winter with Border Boston Trail Committee. That money is going to be going to reactivate the engineering work. We're between 25% design plans and 75% design plans on the section of the multimodal trail from Byfield to Georgetown. So that money will be going into that work. Super exciting. We attended the award ceremony, and I think that's really going to get that project going again. Meanwhile, we also had the kickoff meeting today, actually, for the Board of Boston segment from Byfield to Newburyport. So totally aligned with the conversation we just had with our Central Street applicant. We're trying to think about starting in Byfield. Where do you want to get on a bike? And one of the long-term visions that this town has had in its master plan and the Board of Boston committee work is to get to the train station in Newburyport so that it's both a recreational corridor, but also providing a safe way for people to move around on a bicycle. So that project is a feasibility study that's being funded by a federal appropriation that the town received through Senator Moulton's office. And it's taken a long time to contract, but happy to say we've kicked off, and there will be public meetings along with the open space project, rec plan project. There will be a public meeting kicking off that feasibility study from Byfield to Newburyport. Lots of stakeholders involved, lots of questions about where the trail is going to go. We don't have to have that conversation now, but there will be opportunities for the public to participate in that conversation with our consultants. So that's good. We also have a kickoff meeting in 2 weeks for the Municipal Vulnerability Program 2.0, which is a $50,000 grant that the town received to update the MVP plan that the town did in 2018. This is the work looking at coastal resiliency and in general climate resiliency for the town. So Mason Farrick is leading that project. Sadie and I will be a part of that planning team, and then there will also be public outreach related to that. So lots of good stuff coming ahead in terms of public engagement in the fall into the winter. And then just wanted to follow up on the 40Y project. We had a conversation with the MVPC staff who presented at the June meeting for the planning board on the starter home overlay district zoning. So they are working with their GIS team to do some sort of data analysis. Some of the questions that you all raised about thinking about ways to have a slightly higher density on smaller lot sizes. For us, it's really soils and septic is a big part of that, which you all raised those great questions at the last meeting. So we're going to be talking with the GIS team about if there's a way to do an analysis that would look at soils, pulling out prime ag soils, like good farmland soils that are already being used for farmland or could be used, and then looking at soils that are not suitable for septic. So we know those are not good locations for more housing. So we're working through that. Once I hear more from MVPC, I will definitely have them come back and engage all of you again in that analysis. Let's see. And then I just want to quickly share what I sent to you all by email, but the Massachusetts budget that's just been passed includes changes to the Zoning Act, Chapter 40A, and it is a big deal. There are some changes that will affect every town in the Commonwealth's local zoning. There are changes that pertain to pre-existing structures, non-conforming uses, the criteria that ZBAs have to consider waivers and variances. So I'm still learning a lot about it. We have an advisory from town council that's lengthy, and there will definitely be ongoing conversations going forward, particularly with the ZBA. They're paying close attention to this, but I think certainly it's very likely there will be zoning amendments that need to come to the next town meeting to keep Newbury's zoning bylaw consistent with the state. zoning act. So a lot more to discuss there, but wanted to make sure that was on your horizon. Yes, Steve.
I'm raising a finger, not a hand. If the MVPC gets involved in trying to serve as a provider of information for the towns of the Merrimack Valley, educational format, I certainly would be interested in tuning into that as your alternate commissioner to the MVPC. I think it's going to be an important discussion for all of the towns regarding the new mandates that the state may be coming down with.
Yes, that's a great point. I am sure they will be paying attention to that. And in addition to, our town council who, services many, many towns across the Commonwealth. But I think in particular for Newbury and Newburyport, where we have complicated zoning in our Plum Island overlay district that involves a lot of non-conforming stuff going on out there. There's going to be a need for Newbury to pay close attention to that. So I'd love to have you join that, Steve.
Or at least listen in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And also, if I may, I think I understood you to say that material related to the border, Boston to border trails and trash, some of that's up there on the website as draft information? Or is that one of the things that's coming down the pike?
I'm not sure. Say your question again. There's a landing page for Board of Boston on the website, and we need to update it, but there will be information kept there. I don't know that the waste reduction conversations have a place on the webpage yet, but the job posting is going up on the job listings, I think soon, within the week.
Yeah. We'll see if I know anyone that's interested, I'll let them know. There might be some former EPAers. And I presume you don't have to be a resident of the town of Newbury to apply for the position. Again, I'm asking just in the context of letting people I know that might be interested know about it.
No, there's no requirement to be a Newbury resident. And absolutely, especially if people are doing this work in other towns, that's kind of, I think, who we're thinking might be out there, someone who's an expert in this and helping out a lot of different communities.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I think that is it, unless anyone has questions for me. Or Sadie.
No, I don't have any questions. I think I hear my dinner bell, but other than that, I'm good.
Perfect.
Thank you for your report, Kristen and Sadie.
You're welcome.
And with that, I don't have anything else on the agenda, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I have it? Very good. Pete,
Yes.
Larry, Scott,
Yes.
Steve, and I
Yes.
say yes as well. Thank you for a good meeting tonight, and we'll see you all on the 29th next Wednesday.